Hello, it's Garson, and today, I have to be honest, I didn't do much, and I'm pretty happy because it's been quite a while since I didn't do much. But you know what I did do? We'll make it really quick. I did make a Swarm Arcane Trickster, and check this out. This doesn't even have the Resonance Stone. I'm pretty happy with this, so without further ado, let me get Hans here. He's gonna go ahead and sneak over here, our invisible Swarm hand. And what I'm gonna do is pop a lot of damage. Check this out. Here we go. Yeah. And thanks to Belm, I can even make 2 attacks with the main hand, all that psychic damage, so check it out. Whoa, bam! Get over here, Arnson. So like I said, Arcane Trickster, Moth Swarm, lots of psychic damage, no Resonance Stone. Now, I want to highlight the fact that there's no Resonance Stone here, and that I've been very disappointed with the lack of swarm damage, and yet I think we've done it. I think we've created a lot of swarm damage. Okay, yeah, I think that kind of highlights my point. This is going to be a quick video, just like the quick kills right here. So I'm going to pop this out. I wasn't planning on doing a video, but as always, I'm sitting here experimenting with stuff, and I invite you. So this is the Arcane Swarmster. I don't know. I'm experimenting, and I figure I'd just check out a quick little video just showing what I was experimenting with while I kind of answer some of your questions, do some other videos. So a big thank you if you are watching. We'll dive right into it. I would say normally you could just follow along with these like breakdowns, but let's just dive into it. The Moth Blade, okay, has to do with patch 8 Arcane Trickster, the new Shadowblade that's going to be available when patch 8 comes out, and then Swarmkeeper's changes. I'll show you the build. How about that? Like I said, this will be really quick. Patch 8 is subject to change. It's thanks to you guys that I have the patch 8 stress test, and it's been updated. We've seen things change, right? And I am answering your questions, and actually because of your questions and kind of because some of my ideas that I want to run, now we're doing a new run. I'm also thinking of following runs with all these new cool subclasses, right? And I want to play Arcane Trickster, and I want to play it with the Shadowblade since it's now a spell, and Eldritch Knights and Arcane Tricksters can get it. I want to show you the new power that's capable of, right? But update 3 to the stress test as they're testing things, balancing things, and fixing quote-unquote bugs. There was apparently a bug when it came to Swarmkeeper and Riders, okay? So, without further ado, let me just kind of break it down for you, right? Like I said, I love Arcane Tricksters. I've had a couple videos on them. There is a run called Dippy that some of the people watching my channel know what I'm talking about. That run was one of my favorites. I had a pure level 12 Arcane Trickster to show that, dude, I think it's my favorite subclass, right? So it's probably my favorite rogue subclass. I like playing pure classes, and I definitely like playing pure rogues, right? So I'll just cut to the chase. Sneak attack, right? Using Hans here is actually really easy to just play out in the open. So if you don't already know, you can take your invisible mage hand. It's a little visual glitch, but he is invisible, right? And as long as you have an ally within 5 feet, including the invisible mage hand, he doesn't even have to be in combat, so he can move around freely, right? So if you have those conditions, you can always get sneak attack off, right? And if you go really high into rogue, you get high sneak attack damage, like 5d6 for instance, right? Okay, so we also have patch 8. Oh, hold on, whoopsie. Sneak attack, you can use Hans here. We all like to refer the mage hand as Hans. He's permanent and invisible so long as he doesn't pop out into combat. It's something that's nice about Arcane Trickster, and allows you to kind of fight more out in the open and get your sneak attack damage off reliably. So patch 8 also adds a new kind of Arcane Trickster thanks to the Shadowblade, which is going to be accessible even though you're a 3rd caster and it takes a while to get to this. By level 7 you can get Shadowblade. I believe you have to replace a spell at level 7, not just get a new spell, right? But it is achievable at level 7. I've tested it plenty of times. And you can upcast the Shadowblade. So if you don't already know, this is no longer concentration. You can upcast it. We'll talk about it in a moment. But you can get this at level 7, even on an Arcane Trickster. And with an elixir, we can make it even more powerful. And at level 9 Arcane Trickster, if we sacrifice a little bit of our rogue levels, we'll still have a very high-powered sneak attack at level 9, right? So again, sneak attack here Trickster adds that 5d6 of whatever your main attack weapon damage is. So Shadowblade in the new patch is now a spell. Okay, for some classes like Purecasters, Wizards, Warlocks, and Sorcerers, you can now get it at level 3. As for Eldritch Knight and Arcane Trickster, it takes a little while to get, okay? But it is a spell with no longer taking concentration, and the powerful thing about this is it's pure psychic damage, okay? It's a finesse weapon that will use either your strength or dex, whatever is higher, which means since it's a finesse weapon, we can use a sneak attack, which becomes whatever our main hand damage is, it'll adopt that. So again, it's going to be psychic damage, okay? So that's a lot of damage. You typically want to use something like Savage Attacker, which is going to re-roll all of these dice twice and take the higher of the two, which is a really powerful trait or a feat you can take in one of your feats. It's right here, Savage Attacker, okay? So I took that on this build. We'll talk about it in a moment. But since we have a lot of dice damage, we'll have better rolls with this. And then there's the Resonance Stone, which if you've seen me build psychic damage or other channels or other builds, Resonance Stone is one of the reasons why psychic damage is so prominent and considered very strong. It's very risk reward. There are some downsides to it, including the fact that you too will take double psychic damage, right? But as you can see here, I'm not using it. So we can truly do a lot of disgusting damage with this Shadowblade, and what we can add to it with Arcane Trickster being a rogue, high sneak attack damage, and then finally adding the swarm damage. What do you mean by swarm? Well, so the Ranger gets a new subclass. Even though Arcane Trickster is not a new subclass for rogues, Swarmkeeper is a new subclass for Rangers, right? So it was very strong. I rated it A+, as if 8-letter ratings even matter, right? But I rated it so strong because it was very strong thanks to certain quote-unquote damage riders. Riders are, think of any kind of damage that adds on, like the Callous Glow Ring, or maybe the swarm damage. In this case, when I do damage once per turn, I can add a rider of damage, so to speak. It's kind of interesting, but yeah. Lightning charges and some other stuff. So these riders were deemed a little, I guess, too powerful, and so the devs update in the stress test, update 3, changed that, and so it's not as strong, and I gotta say I'm a little bummed out about it. So if you know and you've been watching the channel, I'm still trying to find some strong uses for it, because if this wasn't the case, I really think Swarmkeeper is one of the best new subclasses. But that aside, there are some utility options like blind. Depending on the swarm, you could shock them, blind them, push them. Then there's some damage types depending on the swarm. For moths, we're going to use some psychic damage. And then there's the teleport ability, which is actually pretty cool too. So the utility's there, but I was really happy about the strength, and now I'm bummed out because thanks to this change, it's kind of weakened the subclass, so to speak. But hold on a second. The power here is once per turn, a single strike could be enhanced by your swarm, but by how much, right? So rogue gives a 1d6 on sneak attack, right? You give up 1d6, I should say. At level 9 instead of level 11, we're going to give up 6d6 to go down to 5d6, and we're going to take 3 levels into Swarmkeeper, right? Or 3 levels of Ranger to take Swarmkeeper, because if you use the swarm attack, that is 1d6, okay? Right here, 1d6. With the swarm of moths, it's 1d6 psychic, which is great, because our psychic weapon sneak attack is psychic as well, and the more we can stack this, the better. And the other thing is, when you use Hunter's Mark, it'll also give you another 1d6 while you concentrate on this spell. Whatever you target with Hunter's Mark will also take a 1d6 of additional damage, in this case psychic because of the Shadowblade. So we have Hunter's Mark, the swarm damage, and the swarm even gets another additional 1d6. It's called Praise Scent. So if we have Hunter's Mark on a target, the swarm damage will also get an additional 1d6. And this is all at level 3, which is why I said this class is so kind of cool in terms of the subclass, rather, being an amazing new addition, even with its quote-unquote nerfs. Look at this. We've just added 3d6 net total, right, onto our sneak attack. So even though we gave up a 1d6, I should say the net total would be an additional 2d6, right? Like, we've never lost any damage, and we get 2 more dice in here, okay? So I know I'm already explaining it, I'll just get to the point. So just be sure to set the reactions to, so okay, this is something in my testing I'm just trying to mark here, but yeah, you have to set this to don't ask it, just do it. Same thing with sneak attacks, and these will combo together. This is why I'm popping off some kind of crazy damage, right? So without further ado, the build time. Alright, so it's build time. I'm still working on whether we should use int or wisdom. Originally, I was trying to have the feature of the swarm to blind them, but just to keep things simple for today, I'm just trying to do a lot of damage on a single strike. Alright, so more rogue because again, the single smite. When we first played Swarmkeeper, I kept getting this in my head that the swarm attack almost feels like a free smite, and then with Hunter's Mark and all the bonus damage, it feels that way too. So, without further ado, is this the Moth Trickster? I don't know. I really want to play Rogue Arcane Trickster, almost pure Arcane Trickster with the new Shadowblade in patch 8. And so here's my idea. I'll actually change it up a little bit with a multi-class, okay? So if we start off with 10 dexterity, we'll actually take the dexterity gloves and get to 18 eventually, right? And that gives us room to have some concentration with the 16 constitution. And then we'll get 16 wisdom, I should say 16, because with our feats, or 17 rather, 17 wisdom, with resilient wisdom we get 1, but then our wisdom saving throw is going to have proficiency. So we have some decent saving throws to proficiency. Then we have savage attacker, which is going to take all of these dice rolls that we're adding on here and really enhance them, because we always roll 2 dice and take the higher of the 2, and on average it leads to like 20 to 25% more like better damage, which trust me, in practice it really adds up. Okay, so anyway, the only real gear here that seems fascinating to try out is we can actually use robes like cloth gear. What this does for us is we get to use mage armor to make up for the armor class. But yeah, when we're concentrating with the supreme defenses, we actually get to add our modifier, our spell modifier +4 to all of our saving throws, which would help our concentration go up to 7 here. Okay, and we get a bonus of armor class. Like I said, the dex gloves, this is going to bring us up to 18 dex, which means we can invest the stats into constitution or wisdom, or maybe even intelligence if I plan it out differently. Belm is really interesting. If you have the Belm sword, this allows you to use your main weapon as a bonus action as well. It's over here. It's called Perfectly Balanced Strikes. Let me highlight it right here. So what's so interesting about using this on the offhand is it actually lets you use your main hand. So you don't have to use Belm. You just need Belm in the offhand, and you can use, as a rogue, I can technically have extra attack because I can attack with Shadowblade with the normal action. And now I can attack Shadowblade with the bonus action, thanks to Belm, which is an Act 3 weapon, but I figure something to consider. But then there's Strange Conduit Ring. If I'm going to focus on concentrating with the Hunter's Mark to get another dice, right? I want to concentrate thanks to the Supreme Defenses, but I also can get even more psychic damage from the Strange Conduit Rings, so that's pretty cool. And then there's a Harper Amulet. If you do use the Resonance Stone, it's nice to have... you will have disadvantage on wisdom saving throws, so it's nice to have that countered by this, plus you get a free use of shield. And finally, Hood of the Weave. If I do want to use any kind of spell save DC for Arcane Trickster spells, like I said, I'm trying to figure out the spell side of it, but for now, who cares? The psychic smiting of this is kind of wild. Check this out one more time. Here we go. That's right. I'm going to pull back the notes real quick. Alright, and again, I have no Resonance Stone doubling our psychic damage. This is just what we do. So let's see if I can land this hit. Oh my goodness. And if I was allowed to use my bonus action, I would technically have a whole nother attack. But I want you to see Savage Attacker. Anytime it says reroll, this is why it's so important to use Savage Attacker on a build that uses a lot of dice rolls, okay? And so you can see here, I use Savage Attacker. I have my upcasted Shadowblade, which, by the way, I forgot to mention it. I did it in the Shadowblade video. If you just use a Supreme Elixir of Arcane Cultivation, you can just get a single level 3 spell slot, upgrade your Shadowblade down here. Okay, so instead of 2d8, it would go up to 3d8. So that's how I got even more damage on that. And it lasts all through long rest period. Don't have to concentrate it. You get Savage Attacker. You're getting all this 3d8 Psychic from Shadowblade. You get your Dexterity modifier added in. You get the 1d4 Psychic from the Strange Conduit Ring, and then a 1d6 from the Hunter's Mark. So Hunter's Mark is adding damage to the weapon attack, but wait, it gets better. There's Sneak Attack, 5d6. This has Savage Attacker, all these rerolls, right? And then we have the Swarm Attack, 1d6. This also can be rerolled. And then, funny enough, the Hunter's Mark gets added in again for the Swarm Attack for an additional 1d6 Psychic, but it won't reroll Savage Attacker. Kind of funny. But if we doubled up all this insane damage, right, with the Resonance Stone, you would have one serious punch, okay? I may not even play this with the Resonance Stone because this is what I was looking for in having an Arcane Trickster in the new patch 8 potential, right? So like I said, the trick here with Arcane Tricksters is that you can move Hans, the invisible mage hand. He's permanent, and as long as he doesn't go into combat or scene, he can stay out of combat and be invisible and set up sneak attacks, okay? So what we're going to do is set up next to this guy outside of combat, going back into combat. Even if I use my bonus action, I could land a serious hit against him. So what I'll do, actually for now, what I will do is finish him off. There we go. I'll set up Hunter's Mark for the next crazy damage. Okay, I can use my free shield. Alright, and even if I do get hit, I have advantage thanks to Peerless Focus. And I actually have Constitution +7 thanks to the Supreme Defenses, adding the Wisdom on here. But, here we go one more time. Let's see how much sneak attack damage and swarm damage. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I also think it's really flavorful. I was thinking of a Psychic Smiter. Instead, I went with an Arcane Trickster sneak attack, disgusting damage. I really want Swarmkeeper to get its, like, quote-unquote buff back with the riders and stuff, but I think I found what to do for a multi-class with Swarmkeeper, and it's focused on damage, and it's got the cool Moth Psychic theme. So, yeah, that's what I wanted to share with you. So we'll see about running this in the future. Right now we're doing multi-classes in a new run. I did run all the new subclasses without multi-classing. There's been 3 runs, 1, 2, and 3. They're on the playlist in the channel's live stream section. And then we're right now doing Galgira, so we're testing out some multi-classes with the new stress test, patch 8. Hopefully they can get patch 8 out for you. I'm still doing questions and answers while we're waiting for the patch out. But yeah, come join the live stream. I really appreciate it. If we check out cool builds like this, maybe you'll get to see how you play and level these up, not just their max potential level 12, but like figuring out how to reach that 12 levels in honor mode. And yeah, just leave some comments and questions. I love to answer them, and I hope to see you in the streams. But you guys are my sponsors. Just a quick video today kind of showing a cool build and what I may be running in a future run with the Swarmkeeper. And then yeah, member support and all that. That doesn't matter. Guys, you guys are awesome. Just a quick one for you. Till then, you have a blessed one.